Hi, I'm Scott with Barnard Business. In my plan for chaos and deliver success, I talk about ways of being successful with projects. And one of the things that I get into is in plan for chaos, deliver success is this 4 point project success approach. And in 4 point project success, you have things like vision, communication, situational awareness, and one of the biggest ones is road mapping. And I talk about with road mapping is don't just have one plan to finish the project, have some variations to it so that when chaos arrives, you've got some sort of strategy to get through there. So, what I want to talk to you about here for a few minutes is this idea of future management and how that can apply to road mapping. Okay, here we go. So, think about any project you've been working on, whether it be a project at home, a project at work. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. In a home project, it might be you're renovating a kitchen and turns out the pipes aren't in the right place to take the new kitchen. It's going to have to jackhammer the floor or something. Or in the case at work, you got this project, it's all going, and you got a budget and everything, and then your key employee quits. So there's things that can happen, and these are chaotic. And now down in our personal life, there's other areas that can happen with things like diets. A lot of people they have an idea of an ideal body, so they start over here and they want to get there. But how do they do it? They find a nice diet, they get on it, they work it, and it sort of goes okay. Then they get a job change, or something happens at home, or their commute changes. So they can't prepare the meals the same, and it's just chaos all over the place. And this happens, and it happens like 65% of people that start a diet actually uh, gain back their weight, 40% and gaining more weight. And 50% of people that go into fitness routines quit them after 6 months. And obviously, the common one that we always hear are New Year's resolutions, that 95% of people that start them abandon them by the end of January. So it happens in our personal life. These aren't necessarily big, but they can be chaotic. And what I mean by chaotic is that the plan you had is gone out the window. So how do we deal with that, and how do we think about it? And so the idea behind this is, what is chaos? And chaos is that unpredictable behavior of complex systems that are susceptible to minute changes that actually occur at the onset. And what that means is that when you think about time, that you had this idea about this diet and how long you're going to get to that ideal weight, it's over here somewhere. That's time. And so chaos, there's a lot of things that go on in that in between. And that's really what chaos is. In the book Future Stories by David Christian, he gets into this discussion about future management. People often ask me, well, aren't there just infinite paths on a project roadmap? All kinds of things could go wrong. And that's probably true. So what I've done is I said, okay, well, let's try and lump those potential futures into some chunks. And in Future Stories by David Christian, he gets into these concepts of there's a probable future, a plausible future, a possible future, and a preposterous future. And I said, well, hey, there's 4 chunks, put triggers on each one of them, and that can really be helpful in understanding what roadmaps are and how to use them in your projects or in your personal life or anything. So here's what we're talking about. If you talk about a probable future, that's something that's bound to happen or most likely going to happen. Think about a meeting you're going into that's going to start maybe at 12 o'clock, it's going to end at 1 o'clock. It probably will end at 1. It's plausible that 5 minutes to the top of the hour, someone's going to say, but what about, and then there goes the meeting. And you say, okay, it's only 10 or 15 minutes. However, it throws chaos into your life and chaos into the lives of other people, because you've got a meeting of, say, 10 people you've got to head to at 1 o'clock, and you're not there. So you've got to get into integrity with those people, or the people you're meeting with, you got to say, hey, I've got to cut out of here at 10 at the top of the hour. So these are the things in chaos that you got to be ready for, and how do you manage them? Now, a possible future would be that someone would come along at 10 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, can we move that meeting to 2 in the afternoon? And if it's a meeting with, say, 20 people, chances are, that was booked maybe a day ago or 2 weeks ago or whatever. Their schedules are already booked. They don't have the flexibility to just switch from a 12 o'clock meeting to a 2 o'clock meeting. So that's chaos. And that can actually affect other things too. If it's a project you're working on, there's information that's not going to be passed or communicated properly, or you're going to have to go back on it, and it could delay the project because of that. And then there's a preposterous future. Someone might say, let's hold an in-person meeting, and for a couple of months from now, book a bunch of tickets, and everybody has to be there, get prepared, and whatever. And then what happens is maybe that was like December 2019, and the meeting's out in February 2020. Guess what? COVID hits, and nobody can travel, or nobody wants to travel, or the office is shut down. Things like that can happen. That's preposterous. And then you've got to come up with a whole new strategy of using virtual meetings and remote meetings, and that may not be your thing. So this is what you've got to be watching for in how do you see the future. So you have these roadmaps. So what I'm going to suggest is that there's three concepts of time, and there's the past, the present, and the future. The past is where you've got all your learnings, your experience, your knowledge, your things that you've read or whatever. The present is where you make decisions. Now, what do you make the decisions on? Well, that information from the past, the data from the past, you bring that forward to today and to make a decision. And what do you use to go with that is you look at your roadmaps, look at what triggers got triggered, and say, hey, which one do I want to use? And pick one and go with that. To make this a little more structured, there's a process called ODA. And what it is it's observe, analyze, decide, and act. So what you can use that methodology to say, okay, I'm observing what's happening right now in the present, and I'm going to analyze it with what I know from the past and what I know from these roadmaps that will take me into the future. And then you can make a decision as to which one you want to go down. And the most important thing is you act on it. Now, you may have to do this again, and that's fine, but at least you've got a path that's constrained somewhat, and you feel more comfortable going into it. So when you're building out projects and you want to be successful, build roadmaps. And to build effective roadmaps, try and chunk them into probable, plausible, possible, and preposterous. That way, you've covered a lot of your bases should something arise and you've got to flex to meet that new situation. And also look at doing this in your personal life too, if you're planning a vacation or something like that, or if you're on vacation. All right. Thank you very much. I'm Scott Barnard. This has been a great opportunity to share some of this with you. You can look me up at scottfbarnard.com or scott@barnardbusiness.com. I'll be glad to talk over this a bit more with you. And if you're looking for a keynote or a discussion on this or some coaching on project success, feel free to reach out. We can have a conversation and see how I might fit. All right. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for your time. Did I turn that on?